This is my brutally honest review of The Sims 4 Eco Lifestyle. This is a part of the series where I review every pack for The Sims 4, including all of the older ones. Eco Lifestyle is self-described by EA as a pack about sustainable living, reducing, reusing, and recycling by producing your own electricity and water. Engage with your neighborhood community, changing the world around you, and using upcycled decor in your Sims homes. So having a look at Create a Sim mode, Eco Lifestyle is well known for having some of the worst cast we've ever seen in any Sims 4 pack. If hell was laced in denim, then it would be in this pack. The theme is bizarre and I have no idea really what any of it is. It's just a bunch of random stuff that's kind of like what a modern hipster would wear, but it's quite hard to describe. It's also one of the rare packs where female cast is worse than the men's. Don't get me wrong, the amount of stuff in the men's section is absolutely tiny. 3 hairs only compared to the multitude of female hairs that are available is just ridiculous in my opinion. Seeming that the theme of this pack was a lot more masculine than feminine, they had such an awesome opportunity to give us some nice men's stuff, and they did. Some of it is actually really nice, I'll actually give it that, but for the most part I'd say there simply isn't enough. Kids got some stuff for both male and female Sims. Toddlers also got a tiny bit, which is, to be fair, a lot more than most packs do. Eco Lifestyle is a funny one because in my opinion I do think the female side of Create a Sim is not that great, yet there is a lot of it, whereas the male Create a Sim stuff is mostly not as ugly, but there's barely anything. EA struck an awful balance with the cast of this pack, and it's a shame because they had such a big opportunity here, but unfortunately they did miss the mark by a lot in my opinion. We are starting off week with a 3 out of 10 for the cast. Taking a look at build mode, contrary to the cast, the build mode in this pack is insane. Eco Lifestyle is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, expansion pack for build mode. It's very modern, but not modern like all white and grey, but more kind of like modern lofty, a little bit industrial you might say. There's a lot of beiges and woods and blacks, and it all feels really classy and clean. The pack has amazing windows and doors and architecture in general. I will say some of the build stuff is a little bit weird, like the beds for example, but across the board the decorative items are really good. Most of the furniture is also really good. It contains a lot of sliders and paneling and honestly just tons of incredible items which really allow you to make better builds. Despite being modern, there's also a lot of plants and green stuff which crafts an excellent balance in terms of the content of the pack. I genuinely only have positive things to say about Eco Lifestyle. I have absolutely nothing negative to say when it comes about build mode. If you're a builder, I cannot recommend Eco Lifestyle enough, especially for those who like modern builds. It's really well balanced, well-rounded, and versatile. It gets a 10 out of 10 for build mode. Taking a look at the world, it has 3 neighborhoods with 12 lots, 2 of these being apartment lots with 2 units in them each. So technically there are 14 lots. Eco Lifestyle is the only pack outside of city living to include apartments, and I'm really glad they did this, and I hope they continue to do so for many other packs in the future. The top neighborhood looks a lot like a British council estate or social housing, and I honestly love how real it looks, and it's a really fresh look on The Sims rather than the perfectly clean grassy suburban worlds. The next neighborhood is similar, but it looks a little bit more like an inner city. It's very urban and I really like the vibe of it. You may have noticed that there's a lot of trash everywhere, and that does tie into the gameplay. The final area is also very heavily polluted, and it's up to you as a player to work on this through being eco-friendly. As you go through the gameplay, you'll clean up the neighborhood and make it look better, or of course make it look worse if you wish, but I will go over this more in the gameplay section. All of the areas in the world are unfortunately very boring. It suffers from the same problem as every single Sims 4 world in that there's literally nothing to do. You might find one singular dumpster to interact with if you're lucky, but that's pretty much it. The worlds have many different walkable areas, yet there's nothing to do with them apart from the same old harvest some herbs or fish in a pond. With the whole pollution thing, there was such an excellent opportunity to create some really interesting spaces and rabbit hole experiences and interactable objects, but it totally falls short in that there's nothing to do. It's just a beautiful set dressing. As with every Sims 4 world, Eco Lifestyle has a very disappointing world. It's getting a 3 out of 10. Taking a look at the gameplay, it's a little bit political, you might say, as it's all about resolving your eco footprint, changing your lifestyle to reduce reduce pollution in the world. To support this, the game has wind turbines, solar panels, and dew collectors, in other words, rain collectors, because they couldn't call it a rain collector because that would require seasons. Using these things will help to clean up your eco footprint as well as reducing your utility bills at the same time. Or of course, you could also make the environment worse. As you clean up the climate, the smog disappears and Sims will stop coughing, and you might start seeing some beautiful auroras and sun rays in the sky. It's a cool idea where your actions change the world around you. The Sims 4 is horrific for lacking any consequences in gameplay, and I think it's a great move to start making The Sims 4 feel a little bit more alive. Unfortunately though, even though it does have an impact on the world around you, it doesn't have a real impact on Sims, other than just a couple of mootlets. You know, if the environment's polluted, they have a negative mootlet, and if it's clean, then they have a positive mootlet. It would have been nice to have a bigger impact on your Sims and the world around you. Because The Sims 4 doesn't really have open, expansive worlds, the feature doesn't really mean anything other than aesthetic changes, especially when you compare it to The Sims 3 Into the Future, which had an extremely similar concept but with much more mechanics. Eco Lifestyle does fall short, unfortunately. Although to an extent, I do think the aesthetic changes to the world around you are fun concepts and at least somewhat rewarding to play. I just wish there were a few more consequences to this. Seeming that the world atmospheres are either one of three states, clean, neutral, or dirty, I think they should have gone further than that and made it so you can make your world extremely polluted, where Sims can't even leave their houses without risk of dying or at least falling faint. I also think they should have gone further with it, apart from just having some smog or sparkles in the sky, and certainly a lot further than just having a negative and positive mootlet. The game doesn't actually tell you what your eco footprint is. Well, it gives you a general overview, but it lacks a lot of common sense. The game does tell you what objects have an impact, but it doesn't tell you how much, and it doesn't tell you if it stacks or not. For example, if you have multiple solar panels, will it stack the effect or will it not? I also found that the environment for me anyway changed way too quickly. If I did just put down a couple of solar panels and a wind turbine, it instantly changed for me. I think the idea of the gameplay is really cool, but it's very difficult to know exactly what to do, and not in a fun and challenging gameplay kind of way, but more like a frustrating I have no idea how this works kind of way. I like to think I have good game sense when it comes to video games in general, but I had no idea what to do, how to do, or where to do, or when to do, or why to do anything with this pack. Just placing a couple of solar panels on your lot seems to sort everything out, and it makes me think it's a nice idea, it was just implemented poorly. Instead, I think they actually should have included a list of objectives to fulfill in order to clean up the smog. For example, planting some trees around the world in some designated plant pots. Another could be to install solar panels in multiple different lots. Having your sim visit your neighbors and convince them to install solar panels, and if they say yes, be able to add them in build mode, kind of like how you do the interior design career with Dream Home Decorator. Having a list of missions or objectives would have given you a clear goal in terms of what to do, but also make it challenging. I just think it's a very good idea, but unfortunately implemented in a way that's a little shallow and offers no fun gameplay, but more so functions as a quirky gimmick. And I hardly think a quirky gimmick is worth the price of an expansion pack. In terms of all the trash lying around on the floor, this has a slightly different mechanic. This isn't resolved through your eco footprint, but instead through neighborhood action plans known as NAPs. With Eco Lifestyle, your Sims get community influence points through gameplay, mostly community related gameplay such as socializing with people, which you can use to spend on voting for policies in your local community. You can choose for cool things like giving your local area a modern development or a green development, which completely changes the look. Even though it's just an aesthetic change, I actually think this is really cool. Although seeming The Sims 4 has a closed lot system and not an open world system, there's hardly any incentive to really look at the world around you anyway, so I can't help but feel like it's slightly pointless. Other NAPS policies have useful gameplay impacts, such as promoting creativity skills, gaining creativity skills faster, gaining instrument skill faster, or programming skills, or promoting recycling, among other slightly more realistic things. Unfortunately, this pack does come with a little bit of undeserved chaos too, with some of the more crazy neighborhood policies. For example, there's a policy to cause all Sims to wear paper bags on their heads, or a policy to encourage every Sim to constantly fight with each other. There's also a policy to encourage Sims to steal, and it's a nightmare because random Sims will just come into your house and steal things. They will also steal steal things from community lots, including key objects if you own packs like Strangerville from the key sites, and it can often prevent you from being able to do like really important gameplay things. The worst thing is these policies are determined not just by you, but also the other townies around you, and if you forget to vote for just 1 week, your untrustworthy neighbors will most certainly vote for something really annoying. And it's such a chore, to be honest, to set these policies constantly, and I always find myself forgetting to do it. Again, just with the smog and the pollution, it's a nice idea, but implemented very badly. But thankfully, you can turn these off in the options menu. And being real with you, even though some of the policies are nice, like boosting creativity skills, you can already do that in the base game by taking an inspirational shower. So I wouldn't necessarily, it comes with new gameplay in that respect. The pack also comes with community spaces. This is a redeeming part of the pack in my opinion. It's a special kind of community lot type which has 4 different versions: a general community space, a community garden space, a maker's space, or a marketplace space. And which way it looks can depend on how you vote for it using the NAPS voting board. This is something I think is actually really cool, and I feel like it has a good impact on gameplay. I personally like the marketplace version as you can sell different craftables there. I also think it's pretty cool that you can change it up, so if you're bored of having a marketplace, you can just change it up to a community garden. The Sims 4 doesn't do multi-purpose lots very well in its closed lot system, not open world system. Sorry, I'm being a little bit catty going on. I'll try and stop. But what I'm trying to say is, I think it's nice to have multi-purpose lots, and I think we should have more of them in The Sims 4. And I really love the way these community spaces work. It's also an amazing feature for builders to have one lot with 4 main varieties, and I think it makes for a lot of really interesting gameplay as a builder. The pack also comes with different things you can craft. There's a juice fizzing machine, which is a family-friendly way to say making alcohol. You can do this with fruit and herbs, and surprise, surprise, when you drink the drinks you make, they have a basic effect on mootlets. It also comes with a candle making station. This requires you to use soy wax and dyes. It's not massively in depth, to be honest, but I guess it's a nice thing to do to make candles. There's also something called a fabrication machine, which is like the main crafting thing in the pack. You can use this to create different furniture items. I actually think it's a really cool gameplay element, as the furniture that you can make is quite unique and you can't actually obtain it in build mode, so the only way to get it is to craft it. You can make things in different colors, and you can unlock certain craftables by speaking with certain people as well. You can choose to use these craftables to keep for yourself in your own home, or you can sell them. Although I wish there were more options to craft more things and better items too. The items that you can craft are really ugly, to be honest, so you wouldn't really want to use them in most of your own builds. Also, you can't sell them in the community market space because they're too big because they're furniture items. So the only way you can really sell them is by selling them through your inventory or by making up a retail store if you have Get to Work, and it just feels a little bit unimaginative to me to just sell these fabrication items from your inventory. In order to make it more fun, they definitely should have included a wider variety of items to fabricate, including some special gameplay objects to actually make it worthwhile. For example, how about an object to suck up all of the smog in the atmosphere? How about something really quirky like being able to fabricate a clone of yourself? A 3D printed sim new occult type? I don't know, something like that. I just feel like they could have gone a lot further with it. I guess the biggest part of this pack is a civil designer career. In other words, getting paid to be a local neighborhood busybody. You can work from home or go to work, and at a certain level it has 2 branches, a civic planner or a green technician, the former being about the environment and the latter being about the fabrication machine. I actually think the careers are nice as they take you through a lot of the gameplay elements in a natural way, especially when you work from home. It actually allows you to have an impact on the local area around you, and I do think a lot of the work from home tasks are fun, although I wish there were more of them. In terms of smaller random features, as I said before, there is a dumpster that you could dive in to get craftable stuff which you can put through a recycling machine in order to get the craftables out of the stuff that you find. The dumpster is also a new trashy woohoo location, which by the way I absolutely love, one of my favorite woohoo locations. There's also an insect farm that you can use to generate biofuel and also insect food products. I guess it's a nice feature, a little bit random, but it's cool. There's also a vertical planter box, which is really good for gardener sims. You can also grow meat in it, by the way, which is a little bit cursed, but I love it. And not exclusively eco lifestyle, but there's also a market stall in the pack like the one in the Jungle Adventure pack, so you can use it to sell small items from your home, kind of like as a yard sale. I think it functions okay. This pack is very unique, and I do give EA credit for trying something new for once. I really love the concept of this pack, I just don't love the pack itself. The gameplay can all be completed in less than 1 hour, and I certainly expect more than 1 hour of gameplay from an expansion pack. The pack has a lot of random quirky features, but I feel like they're more of different gimmicks to mess around with rather than in-depth experiences that you'd want from an expansion pack, and most of these gimmicks result in base game things being moodlet changes, which even further don't really have an impact upon gameplay, rendering this pack a little bit dull if I'm being honest. It's also very important to point out that The Sims 4 Island Living also has an eco career, and it's an extremely similar concept to Eco Lifestyle, which is about cleaning up the environment and making it all look nicer. So even though the pack is somewhat unique, I wouldn't say it's totally unique because we have already seen this before, just with a more sunny tropical spin on it. To give constructive criticism to EA, this pack definitely needed a more systematic approach to altering the environment via set objectives and tasks. The environmental impact of being green or polluted also should have had significantly more gameplay consequences. It also should have included more features to bulk out the pack. This could have included functional greenhouse spaces, which work differently to the base game ones, maybe unique gameplay items from the fabrication station, maybe some kind of weird occult we've never seen before, like a sludge monster if it's polluted, or a giant swarm of flies that looks like a big fly monster or something. And most importantly, to actually add interactable things to do in the world around you. Eco Lifestyle is all about community and interacting with the world around you, and although I give the pack credit for attempting to do that, it falls short in that The Sims 4 is not built for it. The Sims 4 is a closed world dollhouse lot simulator. Not being able to traverse in an open world means not being able to interact openly with other Sims, and not being able to interact openly with the world around you, which defeats the whole point of this pack. Basically what I'm saying is it's a genuinely good idea, it was just implemented terribly, and more importantly, it was implemented in the wrong game. If this pack was put in The Sims 3, it would have worked extremely well, but it was put in The Sims 4, so it works terribly. Based on what I've said, I've decided to give the pack a 3 out of 10 for the gameplay, which I think is fair. Looking at performance, actions were cancelling for most pack specific actions all of the time. Certain activities cause a lot of idle animations, especially the making things like the candle making. Certain work at home career tasks were not completing, even though I definitely did complete them. My sim kept having a community voting board speech bubble thing appear above her head whenever I hovered over her, and I honestly have no idea why this was happening. It was 100% a bug. Even when I exited to manage worlds and came back, it didn't actually change, and I actually had to close the game entirely in order to stop it from happening. Not necessarily a bug, but the pack has a lot of townies with special functions like the neighborhood action plan inspector, and they kept harassing my sim constantly and coming into my house and knocking on my door, and it made the pack very frustrating. The bugs that happened were mostly minor and related to The Sims 4 itself rather than pack specific issues, although they did occur very frequently, which is unacceptable for a video game released by a major publisher. So I'm giving this pack a 5 out of 10 for performance. In terms of cross-pack play, if you have seasons installed, the recycling machine always gets struck by lightning in the community space, which makes it unusable, which is a very silly oversight. In terms of positives though, the pack adds acid rain if you have seasons, although I do think they should have included some more extreme and variable weather if your city is more polluted, as that reflects real life climate change. For example, having a lot more rain constantly, and also to have a lot more unbearable heat. In terms of other packs, the juicing machine lets you make plasma fruit if you have vampires, and if you own the Strangerville pack, it also lets you make bizarre fruit juice from the bizarre fruit plants that come with the pack. Get Famous has some cross-pack play for getting famous by using neighborhood action plans. It also has an effect on your public reputation if you hang around dumpsters for too long. And if spellcasters weren't already overpowered enough, with Realm of Magic, the spellcasters can now use magic to remove air pollution. And of course, there is also all the standard stuff like the get-together club activities and retail selling things and whatnot. Of course, one great thing about the eco gameplay is that you can apply weather effects to other worlds, so you can apply smog to the My Wedding Stories world of Cartosa, as if that pack wasn't already depressing enough. I do think, however, there is a missed opportunity to having the green and modern neighborhood action plans and worlds outside of Eco Lifestyle. I think it would have been cool to see trash accumulate in the streets of Willow Creek, and it's a shame I think that cross-pack feature was not included. But in general, I would say it's a generally strong pack for cross-pack play, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. So taking a look at my total score of this pack, it's gonna be a 5.5 out of 10 based on all of the above. As I mentioned before, the pack has a really cool concept, but it just fell flat and it didn't really offer new in-depth gameplay. And when it comes to expansion packs with that price point, I expect incredible brand new gameplay that's very in-depth and certainly more than 1 hour's worth of an experience. If you're a builder, I'd say an absolutely incredible pack. If you're not a builder, I'd say don't bother. If you want to clean up the environment, get Island Living instead, because as well as actually cleaning up the environment, it comes with some other random features too, which I think are a lot cooler. Make sure you check out my brutally honest review playlist. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one.